Hello, fellow nerds, and welcome to Our Nerdiest Thing. Today we are live with author Penn Cole. Penn is a fantasy romance author whose debut novel and the start of her Kindred's Curse saga released in June 2023. While her life has taken her through a lot of ups and downs, her love for reading and writing has forever been her true north. She has been writing stories since childhood, filling mountains of notebooks with wild worlds and angsty romances. After receiving her degree in creative writing and planning to write the next great American novel, she took a detour as an attorney and small business owner. We plan and fate laughs, as they say, and now she's thrilled to be a full time author. She is a regular participant in NaNoWriMo, loves meeting and supporting other new authors, and reading fantasy, rom coms, and nonfiction. Originally from Texas, Penn lives in France with her husband, where she can usually be found sipping wine and creating fantasy worlds on her balcony. Welcome to the podcast, Penn. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, Penn, maybe you agree with me on this, but I feel like I was born on the wrong continent. I was just in France last month, and I really like having drinks at lunch. I mean, a lot.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
they are just not uptight about alcohol. They're also not really stupid about alcohol either. I think that's the difference. But I was in London, Paris, and Zurich, and everyone's just like, so like, what cocktail do you want for, your 11 a.m. meal? And I'm like, oh, all of them, please. So yeah, I think I need to move.
Yeah. It's the 2-hour lunch with wine is very, very standard. It's just accepted and normal, and it's just lovely. Highly recommended.
Yeah, that sounds great.
What made you guys move from Texas to France?
So, this is actually our second move to France. We moved for the first time back in 2012, and we got engaged here, and we were both workaholics. So when we first got married, we took a kind of adult education French class, just as something like that was our carved out time that we would spend together as a couple every week. Regardless of how busy we were, we would always have our French class, and we'd go have dinner before, and it's very sweet. And so for our first anniversary, we came to France and we said, okay, let's see how much we've actually learned in 1 year of taking these twice weekly classes. And we were kind of walking around joking like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if that was our apartment and our grocery store was over here and we were walking our dog here? Wouldn't that be fun? And over the course of the trip, we were kind of like, well, hold on. That would be cool, actually. That would be really fun. Maybe we should do this. And at the time, my husband, he works in tech, he had just sold his company. And so we were kind of in this transitional period in our life where we didn't really know what to do next. And it just worked out where they let him stay on working remotely, but internationally. And it kind of worked out with what I was doing at the time that I could do it. I could sort of start over and do that remotely as well. And so we just took the leap. We didn't have kids and we didn't really have anything tying us down. So we thought if we don't do it when we're young, we'll never do it. So we took the leap and did it. And we lived here for several years. And then we moved back to the States a few years later for my husband's job. And then during COVID, during the pandemic, we sort of, I think as a lot of people did, had like a reassessment of our lives. Like, okay, what do we really want out of our life? Because this isn't it. And that's when we said, we were at our happiest when we were in France. And that was kind of the lifestyle that we wanted. At the time I was in law and he was a tech executive. They were both like very busy, very long hour jobs. And it was just very soul crushing. And we said, this is not like we get one life, So how do we really want to spend it? And we said, you know what, we're just going to move to France during a pandemic, which I don't necessarily recommend, but it was great. So
that's awesome.
I kind of want to be best friends with you.
Right?
That's really, really great. I love that story. So is this going to be your forever home, is France?
I hope so. We said we never wanted to leave the first time, and then look what happened. And so we say we never want to leave now. But I think if we do move, it'll be somewhere new, maybe not back home again, but somewhere we haven't been, because we just obviously are kind of spontaneous. We like to just sort of start over every few years and try something new and expose ourselves to new experiences. So who knows?
Well, so I'm assuming most of our listeners just assume you live in Paris, but what part of France do you actually live in?
I do live in Paris. I live right smack.
We froze.
Back in the heart of Paris. The Champs-Élysées is like a block over, right in the thick of things.
That's awesome. I love that. Well, I'm a little jealous, I'm not gonna lie. This is why we say we're live.
It has its ups and downs.
This is why we say we're live in case we have any lagging. Give me just 1 second. I'm gonna pause.
Sure.
I'm gonna make sure that no one's on the internet at my house.
We just got the message that our internet connection is unstable.
Okay.
I love how it's like it's unstable.
I'm like, we
So-
know.
So am I.
It was totally smooth from this end, if it helps.
Okay.
Oh, that's good to know.
So it's definitely us.
Yay.
Take a sip from my Yeti of iced coffee while we're on a break.
We are not having coffee. We are having cocktails right now.
I should be doing that.
Well, I'm also impressed because what time is it there?
I was
Yeah.
just thinking that same thing.
2?
It's 1 a.m., but I'm very nocturnal. So I usually, well, like 4 p.m. here and like 10 a.m. and I sleep from like 10 to 4. So
Oh,
it's
cool.
very
Wow.
weird.
Seriously, you're living my best life right now. So let's talk a little bit about your book and just about your journey to becoming an author. One thing we really love talking about when we interview folks is just how you got to where you are. What inspired you to write a book, and how long have you been writing?
So I've been writing my entire life since I was a little girl, and I just would always write stories, and I would get in trouble in class because I was, writing in my, coming up with stories in my notebooks instead of paying attention in class. And it's what I have my undergraduate degree in, is creative writing. And so I really thought that was going to be my path in life. And then after I graduated college, you have a degree in creative writing. Doesn't open a whole lot of doors for you. And so I had
Mine's in theater.
exactly. So I did a side job, and I kind of started a little side hustle to help pay the bills while I was trying to figure out how I was going to actually make this a career. And then that side business took off and got really successful, which was a blessing, but it also kind of put writing on the back burner. So after a few years, I said, no, I still really want to write. That's still really my passion. And so I started doing it again. And then right as that kind of ramped up, we decided to move to France. And so that reset everything. And so then we were here for a few years, and I said, okay, now I really, really actually do want to start writing. And then we moved back to the US. And when we moved back to the US, I decided to go back to school for law for a lot of crazy reasons. And so then I put it on the back burner. I said, okay, well, I'll do it, but later. And then, as I was saying before, when COVID happened and I was reassessing and working 100-hour weeks in law, I said, okay, this is not it. So this is the time. I've put it off long enough, and this is my dream. This has always been my life's passion. I've got to stop putting it off and actually focus and do it. And I was super, super lucky and blessed to have a husband who was really supportive and said, do it. Just quit your job, stop working, focus on this, take a year and sort of see if it's really what you enjoyed about it. And after that year, I was not ready to publish yet, but thankfully he was very patient. And so it's been about 1.5 to 2 years now. And thankfully he's been just really supportive that whole time. And now I know this is what I want to do. I love it. I enjoy writing. I enjoy all the other aspects of writing. It's just a really fun, great career. And I'm super happy that even though it took me a little while to get here, I finally did get here.
That's awesome.
is
So
cool.
I love that you went from creative writing to law back to creative writing. It's almost like one of those things where someone's like, what are you going to do with your life? And you're like, well, I guess I'll do law. And then you're like, wait, no, that sucks. How to do that?
Yeah, bad idea.
What kind of law did you practice?
I was a corporate attorney, so I worked with small and large business owners to help set up their business and get their contracts in order, which is super useful now, actually, for the legal side of my business. And I still do a little bit on this side, but for the most part, I'm focused on this.
Oh, that's wonderful. So you said that you wrote a lot as a child. Were you also an avid reader?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I was that kid, I'm sure all of you can relate, where your parents just shoves you at half price books and is like, I'll pick you up in a few hours, we'll have fun. And that was my idea of a perfect Saturday. It was just being dropped off at half price books or Barnes and Noble and left alone for like 12 hours.
Currently my
still sounds
that's
great.
currently my
Yeah.
idea of a great weekend.
I'm like,
Yeah,
no one interrupts.
exactly.
Is there a
Exactly.
specific book that really sparked that love for you into reading and writing?
So I think what originally got me really interested in becoming an author is I read a few books that were super weird books, just very strange. And I don't know if anybody is familiar with Chuck, a lot of very weird books. And there's a book called House of Leaves that is probably the strangest book I've ever read. Usual in their formatting and their structure, and they kind of took all the genre conventions and just like threw to do whatever I want. And even though I wouldn't say my writing is like that, it really got me thinking about treating writing as an art form and trying to do something unique and different with it. And of course, commercial books are wonderful and that's what I read too, and I love them. But also reading books where authors take risks and do things unusual, that's really, I think, what inspired me the most. And then there's a series called Cushiel's Dart. Are any of you familiar with by Jacqueline Carey? It's like, I'm so passionate about this book. It's like she's the mother of fantasy romance. This was, for me, the book that put fantasy romance like on the map. At the time, women weren't getting published in fantasy. This was 20 some odd years ago. Women, really strong female-led stories that really put romance on, the front of the story. And actually in like the traditional publishing world kind of opened up paths and said, actually, fantasy loving women are a huge genre, and we like stories of women going on adventures and having magic and doing cool things. And so that book is where I fell in love with the genre of fantasy romance and just wanted to kind of get lost in these fantastic worlds of magic and gods and curses and all these cool things, but where women were the ones saving the day and their stories were being told.
Right. Oh, I love that. What a great answer, Penn. I'm gonna have to go read that author.
What was the name of the book again?
Thanks.
I'm sorry.
What was the series?
The first book is called Cushiel's Dart. And so it was published, I think, 22, 23 years ago. And it's had this resurgence now because fantasy romance is getting so huge again. And she's actually releasing a new book in August that is from the love interest's POV, sort of retelling the story. So it's really fun for people who've sort of fell in love with that story 20 years ago to get to see it revived and have this new life now that the author is sort of being known again. It's really cool.
It's so cool. Do you know if she's on Instagram? I only ask because the Bookstagram community is so inclusive and bringing people together. So do you know if she's on?
I think she is. I don't know if she's super active, but I think she is on Instagram.
Okay, cool.
Jacqueline Carey.
Okay, Jacqueline Carey. We'll look her up. Okay, so you had a book published this year called Spark of the Everflame, which I had the opportunity to read and really loved it. And then soon your new novel is coming out, Glow, which is the sequel to Spark of the Everflame. So can you tell our listeners a little bit about the series?
Sorry, it lagged. I missed your question.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I like articulated.
I'm so sorry.
Don't worry, our producer's really good, and I happen to sleep with him, so he'll make sure this works out. Okay, so let me rephrase this then. Okay, so this year you had your novel Spark of the Everflame come out. I had the opportunity to read that, really loved it, and then soon you have the sequel called Glow coming out. So can you tell our listeners a little bit about this series?
Sure. So this series is a romantic fantasy series, and it's set in a mortal world. So one kind of like ours, but not current times, sort of traditional fantasy, vaguely medieval times. But in this world, it was colonized by these gods, these 9 sibling gods that came from another world and colonized the mortal world several generations ago. And the original idea was that the offspring of these gods, who are very fae-like creatures, very beautiful, they have magic, they're, very dreamy. The idea was that these, they're called the descended, that they would take care of the mortals, so that they would protect them, and they would, watch out for them and guard them. And that just did not happen, being living longer and having magic, naturally being on, the lopsided end of the power imbalance, as frequently happens, they hoarded power, they hoarded wealth, and it became a very oppressive society. And so our book starts many generations later on this world that is very much a have and have not society. And our FMC DM is kind of stuck in the middle of it. She's who has been very sheltered her entire life. Her mother has kept her away from the descended. She doesn't want her getting mixed up in their world. But when her mother goes missing, she's shoved in, kicking and screaming into this world. And she has to kind of brave this entirely new experience to try and find her mother, to try and answer these secrets that her mother left behind. And there's also this brewing war between the descended and the mortals that DM has people she really cares about on both sides of. And so she gets stuck in the middle of it and has to decide, is she going to fight for one side or the other, or is she going to, be her own person and take a totally different side? So it's definitely a romance first and foremost. That's what I'm passionate about writing, and I love romance stories. But there's also a very strong plot of, this oppressive world and this fight for justice after generations of discrimination.
Right. And, it's interesting because you cite some of your favorite novels as being ACOTAR, From Blood and Ash, Guild, Throne of Glass, Shadow and Bone. And there's something in Serpent in the Wings of Night, which, oh my gosh, has been one of my favorite books this year. Carissa Broadbent, I feel like, can do no wrong.
She's
But
incredible.
one thing I'm seeing amongst all of those books and yours is that you in your books also have a Tamlin-esque type of character where you kind of like this guy and you think he's like great, and he kind of, no offense to this dude, Penn, but he's kind of a douchebag. Like,
Deb, did you get Tamlin?
little. I think Penn did it on purpose. But you said in Glow, is he getting his redemption story?
I have said that. I can hear my ARC readers right now screaming at their phones saying no.
Right.
I think he does. I think maybe, we'll see. But I love him. He's one of my favorite characters, but I think I might be the only person on planet Earth who actually likes him. But so in the story, the character that you're referencing, he's immortal. And he, to me, represents, what happens to people who are marginalized and who are oppressed. And it just over and over and over kind of, it's just death by 1,000 cuts. And he's lost a lot as a result of all this. And it's really hardened him. It's really made him kind of go to a dark place. And so he's not a super sympathetic character because he is in that dark place when we sort of meet him. But when you learn more about his story and learn more about what he's lost and what he's gone through, hopefully, knock on wood, people will eventually have some sympathy for him and start to see how easy it is for a good person, a good, kind person, to end up in that dark place, sort of getting isolated and radicalized by just being oppressed for so long with no way out.
Well, and I think you hit on something important that we've not seen when we say we got Tamlin. So we've got Tamlin, we've got Kale from Throne of Glass, we've got Midas from Guild. None of those people are actually very good people when it boils down to it. So, if your main character does end up having this backstory that makes you more sympathetic towards him, I think that can go a long way.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people are screaming for the record for like a Tamlin redemption story. It's just he's not very redeeming, unfortunately. But I can't wait to read it because I want to see where that's going to go, because just for our listeners and for Whitney and Mindy, there is, somewhat of another love interest, right? That he's kind of a what you think of as a bad guy. right?
Okay.
And so
Mm.
there's a lot of really great angst in the book, and a lot of, just whose side should you actually be on, which I love in fantasy. So your book deals a lot, and you said this, with deities versus commoners. You deal a lot with like ranks of society and haves versus have-nots. Where did the inspiration for all of that come from, especially knowing that you were coming up with these ideas during like a pandemic?
Yeah. So I was really inspired by this idea of colonization and generational effects of that, and um, you know, not necessarily the kind of original sin of when these unjust societies were set up, but generations later, where you have people saying, "Well, it's not my fault. I didn't do it. It was, my ancestors who did it. I shouldn't be blamed for that." But at the same time, they're benefiting from it, and the unjust systems are still helping them and giving them privileges, and also still oppressing those people who also, it wasn't their fault that their people were mistreated, or that their resources were taken. And so to me, that's something that's very relevant right now in our real world, and I wanted to explore that, but in a fantasy setting where people can kind of leave their baggage at least a little bit at the door. And in this book, the mortals are the oppressed society. And so I think any reader can obviously identify with the mortals as being these people who have no power and no magic and these very short lifespans. And so hopefully even people who are very privileged in our world can see themselves as the victims in this world and identify with them and think about that. And if you think about in sci-fi, we have all these stories and movies about aliens coming and taking over our planet and colonizing our planet, but we don't really have a lot of that in fantasy. And I think that's kind of interesting to think like, okay, if aliens did come, or gods or whoever came and colonized our planet, what would you do? Would you ally with them to try and like get on their good side and like be powerful with them? Would you fight against them and try and get them to leave? Would you put your head down and just try and survive and stay alive? And in this story, you see people who do all three of those things and how they battle with the morals of each of those choices. And to me, that's really fascinating to explore, because I don't think there is one right answer of what to do in that situation. But there's pros and cons, and there's real tough moral questions in each of those. So I try and explore that a little bit in this series of all of those decisions, but also from the descended side of, okay, we don't like this injustice. We don't want people to be oppressed, but that means we have to give up our power, our wealth, our resources, and we don't really want to do that. So, they struggle with, how much am I willing to sacrifice of my own resources to make this old wrong right today?
Right. Wow.
That's
Yeah.
so fascinating to me.
Yeah.
Like
It is.
I not only was I a theater major, I was also a sociology major. Again, not a decision, but sociology fascinates me, and like personalities and how people make the decisions they make based on their circumstances has always fascinated me. So this one's going on the top of my TBR, I think.
It
Oh,
should.
good.
It should. Just in time for book 2 to come out. What's the release date for Glow, Penn?
July 18th, next Tuesday.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So it's
Wow.
really, really close. I thought it was August. That makes me really, really happy, because I'm on vacation next week. So I'll be able to.
Perfect. I have a great recommendation for you to read.
Okay, so I know we've talked about your 3 main characters, but is there a specific character in your books that you relate to the most? And if so, why? We might have lagged again.
Yeah, sorry, it lagged. Can
No,
you
it's
say
okay.
that one more time?
I was just asking which of your characters you relate to most in the books, and why.
I'm sure this is a standard answer, but definitely DM, my main character. We're very different, but one way in which we're very similar is she's a very outwardly confident person, and the people around her would say that she's very brave and courageous, and that kind of nothing really scares her. But inside, because it's written in first person POV, so you see what she's really thinking and feeling, and you see that she's just very, very self-doubtful and very insecure about a lot of things, second guessing her choices. She has a lot of guilt about the choices that she makes, and so she's projecting this strength and this sass and, you know, kind of this feisty outer side, but inside she's just kind of a hot mess. I think that I can relate to that a
I was
whole
about to say,
lot.
it kind of sounds like me.
Yeah, me.
Right? I think a lot of women, you know,
Us,
I think
yeah.
we very much have to put on a face of, you know, rolling with the punches and accepting things and being strong and brave in the face of a lot of a crap. And then, but inside, of course, society tells us everything we do is wrong and, you know, makes us second guess everything that we do. So I think a lot of women can relate to that sort of duality of wanting to be seen as confident, but not at all being confident inside.
100%.
Yeah.
And I will say your FMC has had me like laughing out loud several times. I love the stuff that she says to people. And again, like I know that she is you know, putting on a little bit of a front, but her sass is top notch.
She's feisty. She's very, very feisty.
We like a feisty female main character.
But she's nice. I think that's crucial, right? Like you can be sassy and feisty as long as it comes from a place of kindness. And I think with her it does. She has a really good heart. And so even though she just absolutely terrorizes the people around her with sass and, you know, little jabs, it's always very like well-intentioned and friendly and not necessarily
She's trying to do what's
mean-spirited.
best, I will say.
Right.
Yeah.
So, Penn, obviously we talk a lot about books on this podcast, but we also talk about other things that we nerd out about, TV shows, movies, and more. I ran out of examples, but we would love to know what fandoms you are a part of. Obviously, you've mentioned the books that you love, right? The ACOTAR and From Blood and Ash and those. What other things are you a part of?
So growing up, I was actually a manager of a comic book store for many years. And I don't really buy them now because it's kind of hard here in France, but I, for many years, was obsessed with comic books, especially like Marvel comic books, but also independent, small publisher comic books. And I mean, I had a garage just full of boxes of comic books and I still love them. And so that's probably my nerdiest thing that I love. And now I'm super in, I don't know if this qualifies as nerdy, but I'm super into reality TV and especially like Big Brother. I love Big Brother and I love Love Island so much. So much. It's like the best, just brainless, like train wreck fun. I love it.
Did you see that the new season of Big Brother starts at the beginning of August?
Oh yeah, and I am a live feeder.
I was just about to ask you, do you watch the live feeds and all that?
Oh,
it's hilarious.
100%, 100%. I mean, we just have them on here, and it's perfect because they're basically nocturnal too. So it kind of aligns with like European hours, right? So it's perfect. I just have it on in the background all the time, watching them just be chaotic hot messes while I'm working.
Oh, they did that.
I didn't either.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
they do
24,
well, mostly 24-hour live feeds unless they're doing like a competition or something, and then they turn the feeds off so you don't know who won before they air the episode.
It's very Truman Show.
It is extremely true.
Very.
I just saw on Instagram too. I'm assuming that you are going to know who these people are, but from a few years back, Cody and Jess, remember Cody the Marine? They're having like their fourth baby. And I was
that's
like,
wild.
Dang.
that is
a lot of kids, first of all. But yeah, they're
wild.
still like married and loving it. And I think they're in Texas. But anyway.
It's funny. I think Big Brother has had more long-lasting marriages than The Bachelor has.
Yeah.
My husband and I talk about this every time we watch a season of Big Brother. We're like, well, there's another, a showmance. They're probably going to get married. And
they last because they live together for 24 hours for 3 months. And if you can survive that, especially backstabbing each other and, you know, being like against each other for this huge prize, like if you can survive that, you can probably handle marriage.
That work though, if they're, because it's like last man standing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how do you like backstab the person you're going to marry?
Like, I mean,
how does that work out?
You have
it happens.
They have like usually open and honest conversations, and it turns into like
they communicate.
Like the alliance is all going to vote for you, and I can't change their minds. I'm sorry. I love you. I'll see you on the other side. Well, you know, that's pretty much how it goes.
I like your Big Brother.
That's every guy that I try to do an impression of. It sounds like that. So we're going to do a couple of speed rounds now, Penn. The first
Okay.
one is the nerdy and dirty speed round. And these are just some prompts for you to respond with the first thing that pops into your head.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I think so.
Okay. Last song that you listened to.
Vampire by Olivia Rodrigo.
Nice.
Very good.
What fictional character do you have a crush on?
Aaron Warner, my husband from Shatter Me.
yeah.
And sorry to my actual husband.
I don't, they've not
Warner is-
read,
don't know.
neither of them have read that yet.
Oh,
So
I love him with all of my heart.
What the?
Shatter Me.
I've
got
seen
them.
that all over.
I have them. You can
Instagram.
borrow them.
Oh,
He
he's
is a
my
very much
favorite.
misunderstood villain.
Oh, he's absolutely out of his mind. I mean, this man needs therapy more than you've ever seen.
I
A man
already
need
like
therapy.
him.
Exactly, right? Like red flags everywhere. I love him.
Right.
Oh,
And
that's funny.
you also kind of get Tamlin in that series too, unfortunately.
Yeah, you do.
Book series you always recommend.
She'll start the one I mentioned earlier because it's not well known, even though it's this huge bestseller from 2 decades ago.
What TV series should everyone watch?
This is a weird answer, but it's called The Leftovers. It was an HBO, I think it's HBO or maybe Showtime, but it's very weird. It's super weird, but it's super thought-provoking and the music is incredible. And it just really makes you think. It's a very interesting show.
Is that one where like some kind of weird supernatural paranormal event happens and then yeah,
like 10% of society just vanishes. And so it's kind of about the fallout and how people move forward. There's not really like magic. It's not really a sci-fi paranormal show, except for that aspect of it. It's more kind of a deep dive into like the psychological aspect of how people deal with something like that.
Oh, wow.
That sounds cool.
That does sound cool.
What is a book or who is a book character that you would get nerdy and dirty with?
Oh my gosh. Probably because of the dirty aspect, any of Allie Hazelwood's mailman characters. I love them. I really love Levi. Love on the Brain. It's like, I love that book so much. But any of them will do.
I think this is funny, Penn. My daughter is a lesbian and she loves Allie Hazelwood. And she goes, Mom, I'll always be a lesbian because there is no man like this. And I was like,
Truth.
You're right. And she's like,
Truth.
never be able to find an Allie Hazelwood man. I was like, honey, they don't exist. Just stay a lesbian.
It's
It's
true.
fine.
Can't even argue with that.
Tough but fair. A food you refuse to eat.
Bell peppers. Can't stand them.
That is
That's a
an
new one
answer.
for
Yeah,
me.
we haven't gotten that answer yet. What paranormal power would you want to have?
I think flying would be cool for sure, but I think flying would be cool for maybe 5 minutes or a week or so. I think healing, especially if you could heal other people, because then, everybody you love would, for the most part, be safe,
Yeah, that's a good answer.
forever. That would be nice.
Good answer. Favorite weekend activity?
Well, in the US, it was a lot of watching trashy reality TV, my favorite thing in the world. In France, because we live in a shoebox, it's a lot more of getting out and, sitting on a terrace and, with an old friend and just talking over drinks for hours.
That sounds very lovely. Smut or plot?
Plot, for sure. Although, love smut, don't get me wrong. Definitely need my plot.
Favorite childhood book?
I was a big Babysitter's Club girl.
Me too.
Big time.
I loved those. Currently reading or the last book you finished and loved?
I'm not currently reading anything because when I'm working on my book, I cannot read anybody else's writing. But I just finished The Lost God by Sheila Masterson. It was really, really good. She's also an indie debut author as well.
Oh, awesome. And lastly, for this speed round, cake or pie?
Pie if it's pumpkin pie. Cake otherwise.
Now I'm going to be craving pumpkin pie.
I know, right? And we're kind of almost in that season. Almost.
Getting there.
No,
Well,
not
in
really.
the US,
Sort of.
it's always
I was gonna
pumpkin
say.
spice season.
Yeah.
They're putting out pumpkins now. I saw a photo, so I'm calling it fall, even though it's
So I
like
sent
July.
them a text. I sent them a text the other day. I was in Hobby Lobby and they had pumpkin spice potpourri out, and I sent them a text that said, "Hobby Lobby, that's enough," because it said pumpkin spice and Jesus Christ. It's like, all right, those don't correlate in any way. Sure.
Yeah, but can you imagine summing up Hobby Lobby better than those
Right?
5 words?
Yeah.
That is
That's
Hobby
pretty
Lobby
much
at its
it.
core.
Pretty accurate.
Unsolicited advice. If you like pumpkin pie, the Pioneer Woman has a really good pumpkin cream pie
Ooh.
recipe that uses like pudding and
Will you
whipped
make that for
cream.
me?
I'd
My
have to
birthday's
find.
Saturday.
I'd have to figure out how to do like non-dairy pudding and stuff.
I can help you with that.
But it's really
I
good.
believe in you. The problem is we
I believe
can't
in you.
get that stuff here. Like they don't do.
Crappy
I mean, they do
fake
lots
food.
of good stuff, right? Exactly. I was trying to think of a nice way to say that. They don't do like
Yellow
Americanized sort of
pudding.
bright orange, like pumpkin, generic pumpkin can. But I'm gonna see what I can do.
I will say I got off the train. I took a train from London to Paris when I was there a few weeks ago and immediately went to the grocery store, spent $6 on bananas and wine. My wine was $4 and it was good wine too.
You really don't ever have to spend more than like $5 here to get a good bottle of wine, which is
There's very little
nice,
wine
yeah.
I don't like though, Penn, to be honest.
There's that.
So we have one more speed round, and this one
Okay.
is just book tropes, yay or nay.
Okay.
Fated mates.
Yay. Light
Enemy-
yay.
Light yay. Enemies to lovers.
Yes, absolutely. 100%. Yay.
Forbidden love.
Oh yeah. Yay.
Haves versus have-nots.
Yes.
Love
Yay.
triangles.
I shouldn't say this because there is one in my book, but nay.
I was really interested to see what your answer was.
Do as I say, not as I do. Secret or hidden identity.
Yay.
Social commentary.
Yay.
True love's kiss.
Nay.
The magical power of love.
Yeah, no, not for me. I do love, but like, yeah, no.
Rejected mates.
Oh my gosh, yay. 100% angst, heartbreak, emotionally destroy me. Yes, every
What
time.
more could you ask for?
Exactly.
Touch them and die.
Yes, yay.
Who did this to you?
Yay, but especially when she says it to him. Oh
Ooh,
man, I vote for
yeah.
that every time.
I 100%
Nice.
Does she say
thought
it like Whitney does?
Who did this to you?
like Batman. I thought you were going to say, Penn, yes, especially in that voice.
Small town romance.
No, not for me.
Sports romance.
I actually have never read one, so I'm not sure. I would think nay.
Do you like a Why Choose?
I'm just starting to get into them, and I did not think I was going to like them, and I definitely did.
I kind of was the same way, and I didn't think I would like it not in a fantasy setting, but
Mhm.
I highly recommend Emily Rath's Pucking Around. It
Yeah.
is so good. I know it's like everywhere right now, but it's the first one I ever read that was like set in, it's like actual contemporary times. It's not
Right.
it's like real people, and it works. You don't think
Okay.
it's going to work, but it does.
It lives
I'm
up
going to
to
have to read it.
It really does. It's great.
I will say though, the first Why Choose that all three of us read is paranormal, and it's Jay Breeze, The Bonds That Tie. Have you read that?
I really want to. It's at the
Oh,
top. That
oh
one
my
and her new
gosh.
book that just came
So
out is like right at the top of my
Please,
TBR.
please read The
So
Bonds That Tie.
it's Why Choose, but for a very specific reason. And I personally, the first time I read a Why Choose, kind of felt like I needed that, but I don't. I'm all Why Choose now. I don't
Me
need
too.
a reason.
100%.
People are horny. Go ahead.
Well, see, I really like them because you get your grumpy guy and your cinnamon roll and your, comedic relief. You get like all of those tropes that you love in one series. It's
Right.
fantastic.
Yes, it's fantastic. So we know, obviously, you've got your sequel Glow coming out. What is next on the horizon? Do you have any things in the works? What are you writing next?
So right now I'm really just focusing on that. It's my debut series, so I'm just pouring everything I have into that. I'm rapid releasing it. So book 3 comes out in September, and then book 4 will probably come out either December or January. I haven't set a firm date yet. So I'm just really focusing on pushing that, making it the very, very best that it can be. And then I don't know, we'll see next year once the series is out and complete. We'll see what happens.
So it's going to be a 4-book complete series.
Yes.
I love that you're doing rapid release because that just makes it easier to go on to the next one. I really hate waiting a year in between.
Well, you do lose some momentum sometimes. I feel like if you wait too long in between.
And I think a lot of readers are a little nervous, especially with debut authors that don't have kind of a track record of finishing series. Right. They're nervous that the book won't get finished, or that the author will lose steam or do something else. And so I, especially for my first series, really wanted to say, like, okay, I'm going to put out this full series so people can see who I am as an author, see my style, and decide if I'm for them. And I don't know if I'll do that for every book in the future, because it did require kind of holding the books for a year and a half, which was torture for me personally. But I think for a first series, it was a really good choice to sort of show everybody, like, this is who I am.
Nice. So obviously you're going to be very, very busy. So this may be something that you're not going to be doing, but do you have any other like projects or events or any festivals that you'll be doing?
Not currently, because I am in France. Unfortunately, it's a little hard to get to a lot of that stuff, but I am from Texas, and I would like to go home and do some of that and do some conventions maybe next year. So we'll see what happens.
We'd love to see you.
Yeah, hopefully we can see you.
Yeah. So where's the best place that we can buy your books?
My books are on Amazon, as they all are. My series is in Kindle Unlimited for subscribers of that. And then people who want the paperback or hardcover, those are available on most online booksellers like Barnes & Noble, Waterstones, Blackwell's, all of those.
Awesome. And then where can we also find you online? Obviously, you're on Instagram because that's how we communicate with you.
Yes. I'm on all the major platforms as @author Penn Cole.
Do you have any, we're finding a lot of authors have like essentially private groups for like avid readers. Do you have anything like that on Facebook? Like, for example, Jay Bree has a group for essentially fangirling. It's awesome.
I just started a Discord, and I'm actually I just decided yesterday that I'm gonna to start with, it was just my ARC team, and I decided I'm gonna open it up to everybody because we had so much fun once the Glow ARC was released, talking about it and making jokes and talking about all the crazy stuff that was happening. It was super fun. So I think I'm gonna open that up on release day for anybody to join that's interested in joining and come geek out with us and talk about how Henry is misunderstood, and actually you love him and he deserves happiness.
I'm sorry, Penn.
I'm a lone read on the Henry Island, but I'm staying here.
So if you listen to our podcast at all, we end every episode with what we did was our nerdiest thing of the week. So we have one final question, and that is, what is your nerdiest thing of the week? Anything that you did that you would consider nerdy, something you did, something you read, something you sometimes it's been something we've said.
I just actually on my Discord earlier today, so I am super passionate about the Throne of Glass reading order. I could talk about this for 5 hours.
Okay,
tell us a lot to say.
Are you a purist or are you in a release order? Because I love.
To me, that's the same thing.
I was just about to say I would say a purist and a release order.
I feel like the purists say it's Assassin's Blade, and then you have to tandem read Tower of Dawn, and there's a lot of people get very passionate about that reading.
They do, yeah.
Yeah, I'm one of them. I will talk your ear off, and a lot of people can attest to this. If you be careful if you ask me for my opinion, because you will get it, and for the next 3 hours in a PowerPoint slide with 17 bullet points. I feel very strongly about this.
I literally have made PowerPoints and graphics.
Right?
Just for I'm like, no, that's not right. Let me tell you.
And it's because I love Aelin. She's one of my favorite main characters. I mean, that book has several incredible female main characters, but I think the growth she goes through and the trauma that she overcomes is such a powerful story in that series. And you have to start at the beginning and read it in order to sort of get that emotional journey she goes on. And if you do it right, it's so beautiful and it's so meaningful. So
You've read
that's why.
Crescent City, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I am holding on hope that we're going to see Aelin again.
I think, I mean, I have no reason to say this, but I think we are. I think she's eventually, it might take 10 years,
right?
But I think someday we will get to see all of her worlds collide together.
I happened to read Kingdom of Ash after Crescent City because I had taken a little bit of a Throne of Glass break, and there are so many call outs to Crescent City in Kingdom of Ash. And I'm like, you knew what you were doing the whole time.
Oh, yeah. She once posted photos of her notebook before she was writing KOA and little things. And if you go back and look at her notes now, you're like, I see that. I see what she was doing there. You can kind of see the little Easter eggs. And I mean, that was years and years and years ago. It's just so impressive how she has plotted out this like multiverse decades, decades
good
long.
for her, because I could have never kept up with that.
I can barely keep up with it as a reader.
Exactly.
So, Penn, just to be clear, your Throne of Glass reading order is publication order?
Yes. Assassin's Blade first, which is a misconception that it was published fourth. It was not. It was published first.
Oh, see, and that was my bad then.
A lot of people think that because it was republished after Heir of Fire. And so a lot of people think that was when it originally came out. But it came out before Throne of Glass. And so Assassin's Blade first, and then I am a tandem read fan. I'm not a Cowell fan. So for me, getting through Tower of Dawn was a little painful.
I
just like
you don't just like
when I read Tower of Dawn, I didn't know the tandem read was a thing. And I was very upset at the time because I was like, what the fuck's happening with Rowan and Aelin?
Seriously.
I don't care. So I wish I'd known, because I think I would have enjoyed it a lot more.
Well, Penn, thank you so much for being on the podcast. It has been super fun to talk to you. Am I lagging now? I did.
No, now we're all caught up.
Oh, okay.
You did for a minute, but we're all caught up now.
Thank
no, not.
Thank you so much. This has been super fun. I really hope that we get to meet in person someday and get to hang out. Maybe, you know what? Let's just all go to France.
That's what I was going to say.
Let's go to France. And
come on here. Rare is here next year, I think.
Rare.
So,
oh my gosh, that's
come on
a
down.
dream event for me.
Well, let's put that out there. Manifest.
Yeah, we don't have anything else going on.
Right. Yeah, we're not busy. But it was so nice to talk to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Bye.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Don't hop off. I want to ask you something. Oh, are you still there? Oh, are you still there, Penn?
Yes.
Okay. I am so sorry that I called Henry a douchebag.
No. Everybody does. Literally. So in my Discord, one of the channels is the anti-Henry army, and all they do all day long is just call him every horrible name in the book.
I don't ever want an author to think that I'm like disrespecting their work. So I just wanted to make sure you didn't want me to take that out of the interview.
No.
Okay.
No. It's a common response. I'm alone on my island
as soon as I said
of loving
like,
Henry,
oh my gosh,
and no, everybody does. I'm in an Instagram chat that's like Henry's haters, and all they do just all day long is talk about how awful he is. It's
okay. I was feeling very
really, guys.
Okay.
No, definitely don't feel bad at all.
All right, so I'm gonna go pre-order Glow.
Right.
And thank you so much again. It was a pleasure to meet you. So fun.
Thank you all. So fun.
All right, see you soon.
Bye.